Gen Xers, millennials, multi-generation. These are just some of the terms that we are going to hear in our segment.
And welcome to the Leader's Edge, where we give actionable insights to help you thrive in a new normal.
A fantastic day to all of you. This is Sassy Casas, and I am happy to be back in this episode of The Leader's Edge.
We're here again to learn because that's what we're all about. You see, we're all about learning.
We are in for a wonderful episode tonight. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 4.
And welcome to Leader's Edge Season 4, Episode 10.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge. And today, it's Season 7, Episode 8.
It's called The Leader's Edge. We are here tonight with another amazing leader.
Good day, everyone across the world. Welcome to The Leader's Edge.
Welcome to the third episode, Season 5 of The Leader's Edge.
Good day. Welcome to the Leader's Edge. And today, in Season 8, Episode 6, we'll be talking about neuro leadership, the role of mental health in leading in the 21st century. And today's guest is a very special one, coming all the way from Muñoz. In fact, she's the president of STI Muñoz. That's Amelia de Chavez Pagdanganan. Amelia, please join us on the virtual stage and introduce yourself.
Hi! My name is Amelia de Chavez Pagdanganan, but Gen Zs often refer to me as Lola Cuentosera, your storytelling grandma. I'm not just a filingera, I'm also a certified daldalera. I'm the author of this book. Sorry, you cannot see pala. Okay, 1, 2, 3 na lang. I'm the author of this book. Sino ang dakila, sino ang tunay na baliw? This is a mental health book that outlines my brief journey towards insanity and going back and here in reality right now. I'm the president of SEI College Muñoz EDSA, but that's not always the case for me because I graduated from a hard school, school of hard knocks. And that's jail with my mother when I was 16 years old. And I stayed there for 6 years. And I think for some reason, that difficult life paved the way to where I am right now. And it will be part of the discussion that I would like to share with all of you when it comes to neuro leadership, the role of mental health in leading in the 21st century. And I hope you stay and listen to our coffee table conversation with Sir Dino. And that's me, Lola. You can call me Lola, Sir Dino. Lola.
Okay, I'll do that. Lola. I love that.
Yes.
Everywhere I go, people start calling me Lolo.
Lolo. Yes, now Lola meets Lolo.
Yeah, but Lola looks much prettier than I do. I mean, my hair is all white now. But Lola, tell us, life, it seems, molds us into who we are. And like our viewers, I am very, very curious to know, how did your journey begin? You shared earlier about what happened to you and your mom. Maybe we can start from there, because what often becomes inspiring is how people deal with adversity and make a lemonade out of a lemon. Please do share with us how that happened for you.
When it comes to leadership, it's actually my father. So my father once told me that, show me your thumb like this. Can you show me, Sir Dino, your thumb? Yes. And my father said, if your thumb is straight, you're a very good leader daw. But when it's like bent, really like deep bent over here, you're a follower. And then I know that's just a pseudoscience, that's not true, of course. what if my thumb is really bent? Maybe my father will say, "You're a very good leader," because bent thumb is an indication of a good leader. Maybe he just followed the shape of my thumb. But actually, that's where that's when I got inspired, that I would say that I felt like, okay, I will become a leader, because my father was an insurance salesman, and he was trained to lead and make a sale and to sell himself, and people would look at him in awe when he spoke. So that's my first introduction with leadership. But then it was really my mom who was the leader in the family. Because my dad is known as the in our terms in the 70s, under the saya. I under the saya. That term in the 70s. So it's like that's a facade for a man to be a leader, but actually it was my mom. So my father would like talk a lot of talk, but will not really walk that talk. And he will stay in the house, and then he will do the household chores while my mom was out there being the head of the family. And it's quite dysfunctional in a way because they're not married. They were married to other people, so we're kind of illegit. I'm an illegitimate child. So in the 70s, for this year, it was okay. This generation was okay that the parents were separated. It's no big deal. But in the 70s, I have difficulty enrolling in conservative schools because they need your birth certificate. They need you to be, your parents they have to be married. So those are like the things that stuck on me as I grew up, and it all piled up together, and with at the same time my mom was really bad with financial management. So what she did is pretend to be a good businesswoman, but actually, you know, uh, duping people for money, credit and lending. Typical Filipino, and you will be using other people's money in a bad way in sales. And then what we did is, if we're living in, for example, in Manila, and my mom started a business there, and then people will no longer like her because of the piled up credits, we will go back to the province and live another place. So my school days, they're also not as perfect in a way because I couldn't have a steady relationship with my classmates, and also in the neighbors. You have all those things until finally uh, I experienced having a personal residence through jail because my mom got caught for estafa. So the thing is, you cannot really be imprisoned for loans, but if you sign a check, that's criminal offense. And so my mom was arrested when I was 16, about to graduate in high school. And then my life was a different story from like a fairy tale, or at least it's steady in a way. I have both parents with me, but my lifestyle, that's not an ideal for a teenager. And then my father went back to his family, and that's the reason why we became homeless, me and my 7-year-old sister, and we have to find a way to make ends meet. And what we did, my mom was very brilliant businesswoman, because she put up a Starbucks inside her jail cell. Yeah. So we purchased coffee and bread, and she would serve the police officers and the prisoners snack, and they will we also have jail food. We call that rancho, and it's really tasteless. And so my mom would make magic out of that meal, and then she would sell that to whoever would buy that out of pity. And then she was able to send me to college
Mhm.
for 6 years because of that. So in a way, yeah, looking back, you might say that, wow, that's really tough. But when you're there, you have no other option.
Yeah.
So you just make the most of what you have at the moment. But deep down, I know I was affected mentally because there's a lot of traumatic experience
Mhm.
coinciding that situation in my life. But if I will be given another chance, and I do it again. Let's do that again because the end result is me right now. So
Yes.
watching my dad and watching my mom lead their lives, I picked on a little bit of something, and then I was able to finish my college and find myself a teaching job in STI. But I was really not very good. I was messed up in so many ways until I met my mentor, the owner of STI Munoz, who really gave me a perfect model of how a leader should be. And coupled with my faith, maybe it's okay for me to talk about it here. Coupled with, I have to go and search for the faith that I have with my God. And then I have a mentor in heaven and I have a new mentor here on earth. And it's like a fusion of perfect formula for
Mhm.
me to be to where I am right now. So
Who,
that's
who
my
should we
story.
who should we give credit to? Who became your mentor in
Yes,
STI?
yeah. So my mentor in STI is I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's the number one top notcher in UP for accountancy during her day. So it's her name is Celia Sapalasan. She's from Cavite. And unlike my mom, she came also from a not well-off family, but her parents were able to send her to UP accountant to a company that is known now as Union Bank. But during that time, I think it's Bancom. So uh, I don't know if you're familiar with her husband. Her husband was um, Sir Rudy Bunda, and he had a good position in the club. I forgot that club. Yung all male club, military men, not Rotary.
Okay, hold on.
Parang Jose Rizal was also a member. What's that club?
Oh, you mean like Masons or something?
Mason, yes! Masonry, Mason. He
Lucky
was in
guess.
Mason. Yes, like of the head of Masonry. And that's her boss.
Mm.
That's her boss. And then he was married, Sir Rudy that time. And he was my boss was a fresh graduate. And then they separated. My boss built SCI Munoz for herself after retiring as VP from Union Bank. And then years later, they their path crossed, and Sir Bunda was already his wife passed away, and then they got married. So it's
Mm.
like my boss married her boss in a place and time when they need each other later na. So and then my boss taught me a lot about him, and then that's when I got all the things about leadership that I also want to share with our audience today.
Mm. You know, for our viewers' sake, I just like to quote Khalil Gibran, who's a Lebanese poet, when he said that a pearl is a product of pain. The only reason why an ordinary oyster, one of the most common creatures in the ocean, creates something beautiful like a pearl,
Mm-hmm.
is when dirt enters the shell, which of course is very irritating to the oyster, and so I mean to the clam. So it starts
Per
to cover it with pearl-like substance, and that goes on for years and years. Great pain for many years until finally a fisherman who appreciates the work that the clam did picks the pearl out of the oyster. And so when I listen to your life story and the life stories of many of our guests here on the show, you prove once more that starting from adversity, starting from painful, even humble beginnings, is not necessarily a reason to let yourself stay down, but sometimes becomes a powerful catapult to drive you further in life. So once more, I'd like to say, lead our viewers to say, congratulations on what you've done with your life. You've made a pearl out of it. Do continue. Fascinating.
Yes, let me add on to that, no, for our listeners who would say, so I really have to suffer and experience difficult life for me to find my place in this world. No,
No naman.
there's a pearl situation where it got irritated, but then there's a cultured pearl, right?
Yeah.
That because you studied hard, because you worked hard, not because there's outside irritation coming in your life, but because you allowed yourself to be exposed in your own terms to difficulties, you can also achieve the same level of success. Except, well, the level of pain will be different. I mean, that's
True.
where I'm coming. Yeah, that's where, because my daughter kept on saying, so, you're my mom, and I know that you've experienced difficulty, but what about me? I will be like, I'm, I'm weak. No, you're not. Because I made sure that I trained you in a way that you will be a cultured pearl, and I will be the um, cheap pearl, but very in a way antique and even more expensive. I so
There's truth in what you're saying. Sorry for interrupting, but there's truth in what
yes,
Lola is saying, that you don't necessarily have to undergo hardship or difficulty. For some people, it's the realizations, the epiphanies occur naturally,
yes,
gracefully. Uh, there are a lot of people who become successful even without the pain, without the suffering, but something always acts as a catalyst for them to realize
yes.
that this is where they want to go. So
Mm.
in Amelia's case, in Lola's case, it just simply was, as she said, a little bit more painful than usual. So
Yes. And and of course, Sir Dino, when you talk about cultural culture pearl, it's like because because I listened to you. Like I learned from other people's pain.
mm,
So because of that, I was able to also understand what pain likes, and I was able to use that experience and not experience the same to where I am right now. But the difference why it's really nice for you to experience pain is because it makes you human.
yeah.
It makes you relate to other people's pain as well. So that's why even if you're not exposed to a level of pain that I experience or other leaders experience, at some point in life, you have your own pain. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? And how are you processing that pain so that you'll be able to use that as your strength and your tools to where you want to go? Just pain is like leadership and pain. Let's just put that together. And other than that, you're being just a spoiled leader or a leader with no follower. That's who you are, without pain and without suffering.
Indeed, because we respect people who survive adversity. We know
Mhm.
that they're made out of strong stuff, and so we tend to follow them more easily out of respect and maybe a little fear, but certainly
Mhm.
respect and admiration.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about the particular brand of psychology that you came up with, that's going to help others go through difficult times.
Yeah, that's kind of weird as well because during that time, I was an 80s kid, no, 70s kid, but then 80s in school, right? And that's when, what do you want to, what do you want to, what do you want to take in college? So nurse, teacher, that's the staple, the brand of Filipino. And then I got into computer class in the 80s with, big punch cards. So I don't know if Gen Zs are familiar
Oh,
with that. Punch
I remember
card,
those. Yeah.
hard disk. You remember that?
Yeah,
Word
and the
Star,
floppy disk was really big.
floppy
Yeah.
disk, big Jurassic computer, mainframe. So those were the good old times.
Did you
So
go
in
through
college,
the TRS 80 stage?
yeah,
Oh my
yes.
God, that okay.
386, di ba? We have 486, the series of computers na, yeah, yung mga microchips nila. So,
Yeah,
so
they didn't have their own hard drives.
outdated
It was
now.
all
Yes,
DOS. Yeah.
they have to DOS, insert the disk, run that
Yes.
disk, pull that out, insert your floppy disk. Yeah, that's how old Lola is. So I became IT because my mom was in jail. I
Yes.
was I was I was fresh grad in high school.
Yes.
I barely graduate in high school because that was an all girls private school, so I had to pay, and we have no money by the time. But we were able to do something
Mm.
with the help of my classmates and all. And then what about college? So should I stop? What will happen? So in fairness with my father, before he left, he went to Chad, and I do appreciate that I was given a scholarship, but it has to be in private school. It has to be in private school for me to be granted a scholarship program. So I don't know if that's a good move, but I graduated in FEU in East Asia, um, the pioneer in computer science in FEU. So there's a bunch of professionals from De La Salle who put up a branch in FEU. So that's my school. So I was actually a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Information and Computer Technology. And that's also my dissertation in doctorate. But then um, in 2004, I became my mom. I messed up financially as well. So what happened is my mom became a mistress and I became a mistress as well. And that's part of what I discuss in my book. So I was a mistress because I was surrounded by that environment of police officers and prisoners. So pick one. You want to fall in love with the prisoner, or you want to fall in love with the policeman. So I fell in love with a married man when I was 18. And then after that, I got all the skills of my mom in manipulating people for money. And then I got a warrant of arrest in 2004. And I was already a college dean that time. So I had two kids, and I kind of I was in this rut when I thought of, all right, life really comes in full circle, right? I came from jail. I have to end up in jail. And this time I came from jail with my mom. Now I'm coming to jail with my kids. And that's when I started to think. I have to kill myself for this. And that's when all the traumas of childhood and I had a pity party and I really cried out to God and I said, "You're not a good God. You're really, really a bad God. I don't like you. Just kill me." And then for some reason, I just cried and cursed and screamed in the middle of the night while my children were sleeping because I'm not married, so I didn't have my husband there. And I was thinking to burn my house with all of us inside of that house. And and then I'd like to process that stories into two portions. The spiritual side is that God really listened that night because he sent a person in the middle of the night who just saw me and talked to me and listened to me. And for some reason, I shared all my problems financially and everything else. And then I was able to sleep off that thoughts of suicide. But there's another side of it, which is psychological for science. When you talk and dump out your emotion, you didn't hoard that in, that clears the chemicals out of your brain, and your brain was able to breathe, oxygen flow, blood flow, and then you will become logical again. So maybe those are the things that happened to me that time. But what I remember is that I cursed God and I said, "If you're a true God, you will turn my life around." And then I was able to sleep. And it was also kind of biblical because there's one prophet that God said, "Go to sleep. I will provide you food. Just go to sleep. I think you're having a mental breakdown." That was in the Bible. And then after that, when that prophet was fed and had his fair share of sleep, he was able to make good decisions in his life. So the morning I said, "Okay, this is it. If the warrant of arrest pushed through, you're the God. Do your magic." And for some reason, it didn't happen. So that's when I said, "Okay, maybe you're real. Maybe I can follow you." And for some reason, there's a lot of things that started to unfold in my life that made me defy and not follow the life that my mom led. And that's when I met my boss. And then and then she told me, "You have a potential to run my school because I think I want to retire in the future. Maybe I can train you to become the president." Or at first it's a school administrator because I was a college dean. I want you to handle the school because you know the academic side of it. I will teach you the business side of it. And then I said, "You have to know something about me first." And then I told her about everything. I have these debts, I have warrant of arrest, my mom was in jail. I'm the last person you should trust in running your school. But by that time, there's like a cosmic element of why she came back to STI, because what happened with her is she put up the school, left the school to be managed by other people, and then that school went into really, really bad shape. So she had to enter the same time that I did. So maybe it's like, meant to be. And then she said, "Okay, I'll gamble. I'll take a risk. I think you have something in you that's beyond the bad things that happen to you." Because during that time, I'm really into getting to know who that God is. So, and maybe even if you're not talking about that more, people can see your radiance because of that faith. So what happened now is she trained me, and then that's when I learned na, okay, this is how business pala. This is how you take care of the people. This is how you take care of the economy. This is how you love your country. And that's how you have to pay your tax fairly. You have to make sure that we're government compliant. I didn't know all of those things. You have to be a person. You have to treat people and students in such a way that they will know that you are helping them achieve their dreams. And I was not that kind of person. I was really bitter. I was mean because I had a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a victim. I felt that I deserved to be mean. I deserve to be a bad person because of the bad things that happened to me. Only to realize that no, you are given pain because that's a leverage for you to inspire other people.
Mm.
So invest in your pain. So whenever I talk about mental health with other people and they're into victimhood personality. My husband left me. I'm a single mom. I have no job. My boss was really mean. My corporate culture, there's a lot of bullying in there. And I was saying, okay, people did that to you. What are you going to do about it? I mean, I don't care what other people did to you. What I want to know is, what are you going to do about it? And then when I start to share my life and what happened to me, oh, what? Again, your husband left you? Okay, now I have a different story. I was a mistress. So you want to share about that difficulty? You want us to exchange stories about it? So pull yourself together and,
Yeah.
be a man and a woman that God designed you to be. So that became my passion. Started off with my students first. So my students first and then my teachers first. So I started conducting seminars and webinar series of seminars for them as a motivation because I'm already a school president. So most of the time I'll just sign papers and just, oh, how are you doing? Talk to the unit heads. And it's kind of like, yeah, I love it. But so that's it. I'll just sign things. So what I did is I started reading a lot of books and then I had a mental breakdown. I said, I'm not interested in IT anymore. Sorry. I ditched my dissertation. I was not able to finish my doctoral studies. And then I went back to college and studied psychology. And then I graduated. And now I understand now, okay, I need to study psychology for myself. And I need now to share what I've learned to other people. Maybe my stories and my experience will somehow help them with what they are going through. And true enough, I didn't know that this was in 2000. I had a mental breakdown in 2004. I met God. I had another mental breakdown in 2017. And I asked God, why? Why? I thought if I have God, there's no mental health. Some people don't believe in mental health. It's like, oh, arte, stop. You're just emotional. Stop it. Walk it off. And that I had the same perception. I have God. There's no such thing as mental health. And yet, I had another breakdown in 2017 because of a corporate challenge. No, I made a decision and it was not in a way perceived by others to be fruitful, and I was blamed for it. I was kind of charged 2 million for it, not personally, but there's a lot of bad things in the business that happened. So I said, maybe I don't deserve this. I went on pity party again. But then God said, pull yourself together. You came from jail. There's a lot of things that I did for you. So get out of that bed and just look at me. I'm your audience. Just please me and I will do everything that you want. And that's the reason pala. The reason for that second hit of mental breakdown is because I had to write this book. Sino ang dakila, sino ang tunay na baliw? Because there's a negative stigma for the word baliw. So I changed that negative stigma and I named it Brain's Attitude Leading in Worship, from Brain's Attitude Leading in Wickedness. So that's what I did with the twist in the book. And because of that, I started conducting seminars and webinars about mental health struggles, not necessarily the academic part of psychology. I don't do that. I don't discuss Freud. I don't discuss other psychologists. It's not school. It's like this. Like we talk over coffee and we just, pick our brains together and really talk about being human beings, being humans, feeling, experiencing the pain. That's what the book is all about. And I started talking to this in the context of teaching. And then guidance counselors started to say, what about us? We're guiding students. Can you teach us? So I started to conduct webinars tailor fit to an audience na guidance and counseling. Now, it's really guidance and counseling, not the book 101 way. It's just be a coach, a mentor. Just be human towards the student. And then I started receiving invitations from other schools to talk to our students about it. Some of our students are cutting. Some of our students are having panic attacks, anxiety, depression. And said, no, they're not. They're not having all those things. Let me talk to them. And that's when I started to talk to the students. And then all of a sudden, corporate started asking me as well. And now I run this program to DepEd, police, pastors. And so I think at some point when you look at your life, you would realize God made a purpose out of your pain because this is the journey that you're supposed to lead your life to, because that's where meaning and purpose really lies for me or for anyone who's listening. So yeah, sorry.
It looks
I
to
took
me
a
like
lot of your
that's okay. It was fascinating listening to you. But what I'm getting from it is that there are two dimensions to this. Number one, I've always felt strongly that counselors need to be those who have overcome adversity in their lives as well. It makes no sense to assign somebody who's never struggled with alcohol to counsel an alcoholic,
true.
or somebody who never knew what it was like to depend on nicotine to counsel somebody trying to give up smoking. And so you have such credibility as far as going through adversity and overcoming it. And then the second one is that what I'm getting is you have a finely honed EQ. Your emotional quotient is so well sharpened because of all the things that you've been through. It makes me think that when you took up psychology as a degree, you understood many of the angsts that you were suffering through, and it helped you have the tools to deal with it. Now, on top of that, I love the way that you said that when you counsel other people, you don't use psychological terms or jargon, which would simply make them feel more like a patient rather than a person that you're talking to. So I like the approach. I like the way that you allowed yourself to be used. For everybody and for Lola, let me just say that the reason why sometimes God can use us mightily is when we are in a state of brokenness. So in Lola's life, she hit rock bottom, maybe even beyond rock bottom. If there's ever a bottom to rock bottom, she hit it. And when you're there, there's nowhere to look but up. You look upwards because you're lying down at the very bottom of your life. And in that state of brokenness, that's when God can work his miracles, can work his changes. And it's kudos to you that you listened, you gave him a chance, In other words, you gave him a chance,
Yes.
and by giving him a chance, you gave yourself a chance. So it was essentially a win-win relationship between you and the Lord, and you began a relationship because of that. So, wow, what a journey! Now,
Yes, but it's not always the case. Go ahead, Sir Dino.
yeah, yeah, and I'm with you here that there's still a lot of bumpiness left in life, because the truth is, when life is smooth sailing all the time, it's boring.
True, true.
I was once asked in a table topic in the Toastmaster, who would you find more attractive? A person with an unblemished life, or a person with scars, or not just physical visible scars, but scars inside. And my
Yeah.
response to the table topic, I think, is still a classic, when I said I would get bored instantly with, say, a Miss Universe who's so pretty,
Mm,
perfect.
perfect.
It'd be like looking at a wall that's freshly painted, and after a few
Mm-hmm.
seconds, that's it. But if
Ah, yeah.
you look at a wall that has patina, cracks, cobwebs, faded paint here and there. I'm an artist after all. I finished a degree in fine
Mm,
arts in UP Diliman. I would
wow.
find such a wall far more interesting, because the longer I look at it, the more interesting it becomes. So a person's sufferings, a person's flaws, a person's struggles are what makes them inspiring, what makes them interesting. I'm not saying that, shield your children from, from all the pain in life. I'm just saying, let them grow, let them experience it, because the best way to
Mm,
learn. And we just need to be here for them when they need help, when they need counseling,
yes.
when they need support. So I take it that now, beyond just running the school, you have, I sense you also have an advocacy now, where you want to help
Mm-hmm.
other people outside of school, um, maybe in your community, learn to
Mm,
take what they've been dealt with and make something out of it. I love the way that you really turn the people who are so depressed, and okay, you take the whiners of the world and you
Ah,
turn them into people who roar, people who decide, I'm not going to take this anymore, I want to make
mm,
changes. And
mm.
wow, uh, that's not easy, by the way. That's not easy. It takes a lot of patience on your part. So tell me a little bit about how's your book doing? Are there other books in the pipeline? What's your plans for it?
Yes. But before that, Toastmaster Dino, I just want also to add that my brother experienced the same experience. Had a mom in jail, right? But then he turned out a drug addict and he died that way. So this is the thing. The thing is, people experience the same level of pain. And you said a while back that you seemed stable emotionally in my as you described me, emotional quotient. And the thing is, it's the secret is when you surrender to that pain. I think my brother resisted. My brother resisted and he rebelled. I really did. I wanted to do the same, but for some reason we have the same God. Maybe the same God talked to us, but then my brother said, no, I do it my way.
Hmm.
And the thing about faith is that God is like a driver, and then He will just ask you, would you like to ride with me? And you would say yes or no. My brother probably said no, and I said yes. Maybe that's the difference. So when you're dealing with pain, you need to process that pain for you to reach that level of emotional maturity. And for you to process that pain, you need to understand that there is someone out there beyond your pain. You said
Yeah.
a while back, diba? You said a while back, maybe you reach the bottom of the rock bottom. Well, there's also greatness beyond pain, something like that. Because in the Bible, God uses the broken people.
Mhm.
So whenever broken people talk to me, like you said, you saw cracked wall and cobwebs, but actually you're seeing a masterpiece. And that's how I am now with people who share their lives of difficulty and say, no, just wait, God is making you into a beautiful masterpiece. So that's my book, Sino ang Dakila, Sino ang Baliw. And that's a mental health book po that I've written in 2000. No, I had a mental breakdown in 2004. I met God along the way, strengthened my faith, had another suicidal thoughts, very persistent in 2017. And that's, I said, no, I cannot. This is not. And that's God's way of making me a human being. And then I started conducting mental health workshop from 2018 to 2019, wrote the book and published the book in 2020, and yes, lockdown. So how will I sell the book? The plan is for me to go to different provinces because I got a lot of invitation and bring my book there. That's how you sell the book, right? I cannot, I, the, for me to put this on like national bookstore or, you know, known bookstore, there's a lot of things. I'm an indie writer. So I published my own book. And I don't know how, I don't know how to do that. So I said, I'll bring my book. I'm not really, it's, the book is not really for me to earn money from. The book is just when people are saying, I want to know more, I want to listen to you more. I said, here's the book. Review whenever you're having a problem. And then there's a lockdown. So I said, okay, no, I have 1,000 books sleeping in my house. I said, okay, Lord, whatever. Let's continue to do this. And then there's a lockdown and there's a spike of mental health something that I don't know what's happening because there's a lot of invitation. Then I started conducting webinars and then promoting the book while writing my second book, which is about sex, teaching parents to teach their kids about. I was sexually molested as well, so it's part of also my pain and trauma. So one guidance counselor told me, I like when you talk about sex education during your conduct of teen empowerment uh, workshop. Maybe you can also design a program for the parents because there's a spike of teenage pregnancy. So that's the book that I was, all right, there's a lockdown. I will write another book instead of sell this book. And then I also started writing about my stories with my mom. And another book that the title is Rich Mom, Poor Mom. So I'm talking about my rich boss, my mom, and then my poor mom from jail, and the lessons of leadership that I learned from the two of them. So I'm writing 3 nonfiction books during the lockdown. But then another Toastmasters invited me to join a writing competition in ABS-CBN because part of I'm not a nonfiction writer. I'm a fiction writer. I write romance and fantasy, dark fiction. That's my thing. So all the while when I was a teacher and a president, if there's a you know not so busy moment, I would just open my laptop and write romantic stories about vampires and the werewolves and teenagers because my clients are teenagers and there's a lot of stories in there and so I joined out of 400. ABS-CBN selected me to be top 10. So we were supposed to be trained by the likes of Miss Sarah Santos, Ricky Lee, uh, Maki, Maki Wonder. There's a lot of mentors provided for us. So I, out of 10, I have to compete with the 10 of them, and I wrote, sorry about this, quite, I wrote an educational erotica novel. Sorry, considering that I'm into, but then I entered that competition, and then I got into top 5. Now I'm supposed to write a star cinema movie as encouraged by my mentor. And because I love Lea Salonga and Aga Mulak, I wrote supposed third movie for them. I know it will not become a movie. It's for the competition. And then God is good. No, for some reason, God is good. And then ABS-CBN shut down. It's not God is good. I'm not saying they shut down and it's good. I'm just saying God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote the book and it's locked down. I joined a competition and ABS-CBN shut down. It's like doors are closing, but then windows are opening as well. And then one novel, Christian fiction romance novel that also um, highlight our cultural values was picked out by an international publisher. So it was printed in Canada, and then I had to uh, buy from them the books. And that's when I said, wow, am I really a writer? That's another weird stuff for me. And then that book that's supposed to be for ABS-CBN got picked up as well by an indie publishing house, and it got published as well. And now I was asked to produce more series of novels for me to write and for me to also publish. So it's like I'm into mental health, and I'm also writing fiction for teenagers with a mental health element into it. So I have like psychological fiction, and then I have this one. So when I'm asked, so where are you going with all of this? And my answer is wherever God takes me. I mean, the fiction is for me to reach out to the younger generation. The nonfiction is for me to reach out to the parents, or vice versa, because my fiction novels also required parents to read with their children. But at the end of the day, it's about promoting people to read. And that's basically the neuro leadership that I want to share with you. And I have only 4 things lang po to share. And it's care. I will use the word care as a new generation of leaders for the Gen Zs. No, they're different now. Gen Zs are different kind of animal, if you will. They're really creative, emotional, entitled, beautiful brains, but with so much, something in their heads. So that will be the people that you will lead if you are leaders, if you are a leader listening to this. So for care lang po, neuro leadership, care is cortisol leakage. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Care is cortisol leakage. A is for anti-fragility. Now, how are we gonna deal with bullying in the office, bullying in the school? R is for remembering the I wrote it here. Let me just review lang. Okay. Letter C is cortisol leakage. Letter A is anti-fragility. The role of motivational addiction for leadership. There is such thing as motivational addiction. Baka you're an addict as a leader and you don't know it na pala. And finally is leadership through engaging storytelling. And when I read that, because I'm writing a new book with a partner now, my school administrator, Princess Velasquez, it's neuro leadership as well. So I had to research. And the first thing about the leadership now is the cortisol leakage. I don't know if you're familiar with bate. You're familiar with bate po? Na bate. You're familiar with nabalis? Nausog? You're familiar with that term? The
I think
baby.
this sounds like a Visayan word, but I'm not quite sure if that's the same thing.
No, it's Filipino words. Yung people will put laway on the on the children. You're familiar with that? Nausog or nabate?
Oh, not quite. Do elucidate me
Talaga
on
po?
that.
Okay. I don't know if you have a baby, right?
Yeah.
You have a baby, you're carrying a baby. And then the father, a tita, a sister will come and say, "Oh, cute, cute baby, cute." And then that person will leave. And the baby will cry and will get sick. And you say, nausog siya. That's why they're giving them the colorful porcelas, the bracelet.
Oh.
You don't know this? Nausog ka. Yeah, and then you will call the ate, come here. Put laway on the kid. That's the nausog thing.
What I have heard from my wife was one time when I took my son, my young son, over to Villa Escudero for
Mm-hmm.
3 days and 2 nights, a vacation, a break. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that when we went home after that, my son was the night before he was crying, Papa, uwi na tayo, ganyan. And then when we finally got home, he was depressed for some reason. Like he didn't feel like talking for quite a while. And my wife
Mm-hmm.
said, Papa, naiwan ang diwa niya sa Villa Escudero. And
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't understand what she meant.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean na naiwan yung diwa
Naiwan ng
niya? Like,
kaluluwa.
yeah. Do we have to go back
Nabate.
there and call him out?
And pick the
What am I supposed to do? So I don't know if that's similar or totally different.
Yes. Yeah, it's like namatanda, right? There's also a term of namatanda siya. It's the same as naiwan yung diwa, which means may bumate. Someone like that kid. Parang ganoon. That's the old term. That's the Filipino term, right? So I don't know.
Yung what we call the pamahiin.
Pamahiin, yeah, right. So that's it. If you're not familiar with that, I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but this is funny. Naglalayag na regla. Are you familiar with naglalayag na regla?
Oh.
No. Lola is teaching you a lot of things. I told you.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
naglalayag. Yeah, your wife will. You have daughters.
Yeah, I have a daughter. Yes.
One.
Okay.
I think your wife and your daughter will understand. Here's the thing with us girls. We're having menstruation every month. And every month we're emitting sexual steroids through our skin and the sweat. And that steroids will blend into the air. And that air will touch someone else's skin, your daughter. And that will synchronize her menstruation in such a way that my menstruation will come before or after hers. So when another daughter will come in and started menstruating, that regla will be maglalayag, which means there will be a skip over the month because they are waiting for our sweat to enter her system so that her sexual steroids will synchronize with ours. That's the reason why when you're a new girl in town with bunch of girls, for example, inside the office or inside the boarding house, you will have a delay in your menstruation for a month, which means your regla is naglalayag. So those are like, yeah. So why is it important in neuro leadership? Because when I read that concept, I was like, always nababati ako. Always, I will when a person will greet me, I will throw up and be sick for like a day until I will call that person and say, can you please put some laway in my skin? I don't know, but on my skin, just do something. And it's the same with the explanation with menstruation. Now, here's the thing. The science of it is the new cortisol leakage. I'm a leader. I'm having a lot of stress because the board is,
Yeah.
picking a fight with me, right? I will enter my office. I will be quiet, but my people will feel that I'm not in a good place.
Mm.
Yet I'm not telling them anything. Even if I'm laughing with them, even if I'm, pretending that I'm okay, at the end of the meeting, the people you're talking to felt like, yeah, there's some heaviness. You experienced that. You met a person and you felt like, I like him, but there's sort of, he's
Yeah.
kind of heavy. Yeah, yeah. But
Yes.
he's fun to be with. It's the cortisol leakage. There's the sweat inside your body, then
Yeah.
immersing that
The
in the air.
pheromones do
And
spread through the air. You're right. You're right. I have
yes,
encountered
yes,
individuals who, on the surface, look fine, sound fine,
yes.
but I left the meeting, and I would tell my
Heavy.
mother, who goes with me when we go on business meetings, I said, that was a very heavy meeting, and I'm not sure why that
Yeah.
was, because
Why?
the person was very accommodating. She was very
Mhm.
friendly, but somehow you felt that, and I felt that with one of my former bosses, uh, the
Mm.
late the late great Ellen Esguerra, who became my boss in a real estate company, who was under enormous stress, incredible stress.
Mhm.
There was a time she was responsible for 60% of the revenue that the company was making, and that
Mm. Oh
gave her
wow. Yeah.
enormous
True.
political clout within the company.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And it made the leadership of that company feel a little bit threatened. And as
Mm-hmm.
a result, there was an internal power struggle that went on. And though she was inspiring to work for, every day when I walked into her office, instantly, the moment I walked
Heavy.
in, it felt heavy. She was
Heavy.
smiling.
Yeah.
She was saying, Dino, how do I trigger you so that you can perform better? And I
Mm-mm.
was at a loss. I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't know
Yeah.
what I needed to trigger myself.
Mm-mm.
But this explanation helps me
Makes sense,
understand.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
And what the thing is, now that I learned about this is to lead the Gen Z, you have to motivate them, right? That's how they are now. It's not unlike in the 70s when you have to be military. Do this. Follow me. That's the military way. Now you cannot do that to the Gen Zs. They will leave. The Gen Zs will perform out of care. Out
Out
of
of fear.
purpose. There has to be a vision, not out of fear.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a kind of boss who don't know how to channel your cortisol, because cortisol is the hormones you release when you're under a lot of stress, right? So if you don't know how to channel that, or at least explain to your people in such a way that they will leverage on that, because stress is good in so many levels. You can fight instead of flight, right? Instead of fleeing from the problem. You can leverage from it, but for as long as you know you're aware and you know how to process. So it's the same concept with both leadership in the office. So that's why we created a culture in SCI Munoz where I kind of allow them to just binge on whatever it is that they like outside of work. SCI for you is 8 to 5. Outside 5 o'clock, let's not talk. Do your plantita, do your, you sing as a band member, go and play. Do something else with your life outside of SCI. And then go back fresh from that. And then let's, try not to leak a lot of cortisol inside the office. And for you to do that is simply psychoanalysis. Just listen, talk, allow them to talk, allow them to just unload the burden to you. Because after they complain, this is difficult, and after they do that, they will release a lot of chemicals negative chemicals inside their system, and they're also good to go. I think
Mm.
now that's my role as a president, for me to just listen to all of their uh, doubts and all of their complaints. But at the end of the day, they will still perform it. They're not complaining because they don't want to do it anymore. They're just complaining because there's a lot of things going on, especially in the education system. When there's a lockdown, I don't know if we're gonna open or we're gonna close for good, because people don't want to go to school anymore because of the lockdown. So there's a lot of cortisol leakage inside the office, and I had to understand that. And you as a leader should also carry yourself in such a way that you know how to release your cortisol leakage elsewhere, so that your team will not be able to experience and have that in their system as well. The same with parenting. So whenever parents are talking to me and said, please talk to my teenage boy. He's depressed and he's having anxiety attack. And as I said, are you a doctor for you to diagnose that your child is depressed? Is he clinic? Can you just, let's not diagnose our kids. Let's not. And I said, okay, I will not talk to the parent. I will not talk to the kids. I'll talk to you. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I discover it's the parents who's leaking a lot of cortisol over the household. That the children unconsciously, even very kid, 5 years old, act out, throw tantrums, got sick a lot. So when I was speaking to a mom who had a bad experience at work and decided to dwell on that for like 7 months, I asked, how's your baby? Is she getting sick a lot? Yes. Yeah, it's your fault. That's how blunt I was. It's your fault because what happened in your office 7 months ago, that should not enter your household. It's not fair to the people inside your family. The same way with my wife left me, and then you go to the office, and then you have that cortisol leakage inside your home, spill over your work. And sometimes it cannot be avoided. That's why there has to be a person in charge inside the office responsible to collect that cortisol leakage. And it will become a
Sort of like
it will become a
officer.
perform.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you have that. Now here's the thing. As of this date, corporates, they're opening up. I heard that Dole is kind of requiring some sort of mental health training inside the corporate world. But a lot of corporate people that I talk to, they're still resisting. The same
Yeah.
way as churches. Yeah, they're still resisting. For them, they're saying, nah, mental health is just arte. Yeah, but there's a science into it. And you have to look into the science. You want your team to be productive? Let's check your cortisol leakage. And I will know how unproductive your people is. So when I talked to corporate, they said, yeah, we're doing it only for the requirements. Actually, we're not pursuing for. I'm telling you, you have to have someone out there in your office, and his only job is to collect the cortisol from your people. And all that people need to do is to listen without judgment, and then assure that people that it will be okay. We're a team here, and then we will make this happen. And that's the reason why we survived this pandemic in STI. We take every new challenges like it's from God, and there's a science for us to deal with it. So it's a balance of both things. So that's cortisol leakage. And I hope you learned a lot from that cortisol
I
leakage.
certainly did. I certainly did. And I do hope that uh, employers, because this channel is watched mainly by HR professionals,
Yes,
HR leaders,
correct.
uh, the exact kind of audience who need to hear this. So
Mhm.
I'm also starting to understand why psychologists or psychiatrists are paid so much, because imagine it's their job day in and day out to be exposed to all of
We're
that cortisol.
we're dumpsters, you know? We're
So one
the
time,
trash can of the corporate world.
Yeah. So one time
Yeah.
when I had to avail of the services of a shrink myself, I asked my shrink, I'm just guessing here, but it's probably likely that you have to see a shrink yourself after
Yes.
you've had enough of us coming to
Mm-hmm.
you with our problems. And she said, absolutely right, because we cannot
Yes.
deal with it all on our own. And so we
Mm-hmm.
as a profession, we help one another. I said,
Mm-hmm.
awesome, because you cannot be the repository of all of the
All the
junk
negative
the
thing.
world
Correct.
has to give,
And you
and
know
then
what?
keep it in. Yeah, kailangan.
Yes, you know what? Mm-mm. Can you imagine Toastmaster Dino? For example, I was talking to, for example, a mom, and the experience is not the same with mine. I didn't experience, for example, being left by a husband, or, for example, her husband fell in love with another man, for example. No? And that's a new concept for me to process. And that story will create a new pathway in my brain
Right.
that will change me as a person and my perception of that situation. Now, if I have no one to process that new information with, I'll be lost in this game. And in my case, it's my faith. Now, I have the daily devotions. I need to cry every day. It's a part of my system because crying is good. Now I've written one book. It's done. It's to be launched this month or next month. It's Porn Detox for 31 days to kick your anxiety and depression away. I counseled this guy and he's suicidal. And the only thing that I ask is, are you watching porn? And he said a lot, like
Oh
four
my
times to five
goodness.
times, that it's messing with my job, that I
Yeah.
had to be late because I had to do something as a kick for my motivation. And I said, do you want to do something crazy with your porn habits? And we did something. And for 21 days, I counseled that on a daily basis and said, what will I do after 21 days? Let's push for 31 days. What will I do after this? Let's write a book about it. And now we're launching it. Now, I'm talking to a lot of guys with and girls with the same problem. And they will tell me stories that I am not into porn. They will tell me, and I was like, that will mess my brain, Lord. I will go to Lord, sorry. They have stories that will really change your mindset, counselor or psychiatrist. And you need that in your office. Can you imagine if your team, if you're the leader and you're supposed to bring the bottom line to your board, and you have a team with number one, the husband left her. Number two, your manager number two was a porn addict. Number three, a Gen Z who's addicted to TikTok and gadgets. Number four, you have another team member who's in a lot of financial trouble. How will you manage those guys if you will not bring in support for them to understand that, hey, this is work and this is your life and this is how your brain works and this is how we're going to do something with your brain to help you straighten your life and be productive at work. Until you're open for that inside your corporate world, that will be this will be a tough 21st century to manage.
I'm resonating with what you're saying because in this village where I live, I was active for 6 years in the community as an officer and as a federation officer. So sometimes parents will come to me, can you talk to my son because he's having suicidal thoughts, or can you talk to
Mm-hmm.
my husband because
My
he doesn't want to get
husband, yes,
vaccinated. Ayaw niya
yes.
magpabakuna, takot siya. And I go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll do what I can. And some of the conclusions that I saw were that if it isn't porn that they're addicted to, and I was shocked to discover that some church, what you call deacons or elders in the park when they have breakfast together. They'll share porn clips with one another. Hey, look what I found! Look what I found! I said, oh my goodness, these old guys. What's wrong with
Yes.
them?
And it's
And-
also in church.
yeah,
It's also
then
in
there's
churches, right?
yeah, and then their kids are addicted to something else, which is like computer games. They never leave their
Yes.
room. Um,
True.
and when I started to put things together, one of the realizations I had was for those who were addicted to porn, they were after the oxytocin kick that
The
they get from
dopamine
it.
hit, the
Yeah,
dopamine, yeah.
the anticipation of it, which is dopamine, and then when they experience it, it's the oxytocin kick that they get.
Oxytocin,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so I was counseling some of them. Look, you need to get out of the house. You need to do brisk walking. You need to get into running because that'll help you have
Yes.
a different hormone, endorphins, which is good for pain, but it also makes you feel good. It's a feel good hormone. So you need to get out and try hugging people you love because and
Yes, for
sharing
serotonin hit.
yeah.
That's for
Uh,
serotonin.
yes, serotonin. Because I said, if this is the only source of how you cope with your stress, then you're isolating yourself from all the good that's out there. So,
But
uh,
the thing about, I hope I can, if I launch the book, I will give you a copy of that book, the 31, the porn detox. So maybe you will learn something from that you can share to your village. The thing about porn is, you're right. Now it's oxytocin. Oxytocin is actually a hormones release when you want to feel good for yourself. Serotonin is a bonding hormones when you want to bond with another person. What porn did is you digitized human beings. You look at two people doing something that you're not supposed to watch because sex is supposed to be experienced. You're supposed to experience sex. You have to have sex with another person. But when you're addicted to porn, you're a watcher. You watch other people do that. And in the context of that, you will start to objectify them. They're no longer human beings to you. Now, if you're a boss addicted to porn and you have a secretary, and that secretary will approach you, instead of thinking strategically with what you're going to say with your secretary, you will look at your secretary thinking that she's an object for you to release oxytocin from. So parang when you look at it, that's how porn messed your brain up. Now, when you say go ahead and walk, go ahead and do something, they cannot. It's an addiction. So you have to couple that challenge with something that deviate their brains from going back over and over to the same pathways. Because what porn usually does is you will watch one, there's like a flood of dopamine and oxytocin, and then that flood will create like a bump inside your brain waves, and that well will go deeper and deeper and deeper as you watch more and more radical porns and violent porns. And what you need to do is to create a new pathways. Let's create a new pathways for them to draw happiness from. Because most of porn addicts, they're depressed. And yeah, sometimes basketball, sports will do, busy hands will do that. But then empower their brain, teach them. So that's what we did when we wrote uh, Porn Detox in 31 Days to kick your anxiety and depression away. So every day, instead of watching porn, you will read day one. It's like a daily bread of sorts. And then we will outline what you need to do and then challenge you with it and then teach you about our experiences and teach you about science of porn addiction. And then day two, live one day at a time. You will say, yes, please, I cannot watch porn. And when you're tempted to watch porn again, you go back to that book and remind yourself not to go and watch porn. And for 31 days, you will see changes in the behavior, changes in your taste buds. Even your taste buds will change. The way you see food, the way you see your wife, the way you see people around you. They're no longer digitized objects for you to take pleasure from.
That
That's
is such
10,000.
a wonderful path to solving this particular dilemma, because over the years, um, part of my experiences were I became like a labor union vice president. And then the following year, I was promoted so that I couldn't be elected president. Management made me a supervisor. So now during a CBA negotiation, I sat on one side of the table one year, and then I was on the other side the next. But, I mentioned this because as my career progressed, as I went up the ranks, became a manager, I became exposed to adjudication boards where I had to sit in as part of HR, where we had cases like, hey, this manager is messing around with his secretary. What are we supposed to do? Because clearly the secretary was a victim, so we cannot ignore her need for justice. And yet the manager involved is bringing in so much business, so we can't just terminate him because
Oh,
he might take
yes.
away so many of his clients who'd move right along with him to another company, worse, a competitor. So what do we do? What do we do? So, like, and I recall during those days, because we didn't have this kind of tool to deal with it, we'd simply come up with, okay, well, why don't we give her a promotion and assign her to a
True.
different boss, maybe a
Branch.
female
Oo.
boss. And then this
Mhm.
manager, who seems to be unable to keep his hands off women, we will assign a male secretary to him. And,
Mm.
and in my mind, now that I've heard what you said, it seemed a lot like Band-Aid instead of really,
Yes.
you know,
Instead of reaching out to that
yeah,
guy, for
instead of
all you
really
know,
addressing,
he did.
oh, totoo.
Yes, for all you know, he really didn't want to do that as well. He really
Mm,
didn't want to leave his wife. He really didn't want to mess up with the secretary. If there's just, someone who can just say, come here. How about we talk? You're not a manager here. Tell me, why are you depressed? You have everything. You're a manager. And then they will just talk and talk and talk, and we will just help them process their own thoughts
yeah,
and look at their
yeah.
lives, look at themselves in the mirror. And there's a saying that an unexamined life is a life not worth living for. If you're
Mm,
a manager and a boss and you're doing well in business, and yet you're not examining your own life in the perspective of like personal, spiritual, physical, right? And you're just into mental and be logical, then it's not worth living for. You will be sad. There's a sadness in you cannot explain,
mhm.
and you
You know
need
what
just to
I'm,
talk to someone for it.
realizing now, is that there is a market for what you're sharing, not just in the corporate world, not just in the educational world, like with Chad or with Dex,
Mm-mm.
but and I this will be a bit controversial, but I'm serious about this. Church groups.
Yes, I talked to
Church groups.
pastors. I also talked to pastors about this, and they were mind blown when
Yeah,
I first talked to
exactly.
them. Na,
Exactly.
churches, you're hypocrite for not opening up to this kind of teaching. Science came from God. I mean, that's how I viewed it.
Mm-mm.
It came from, we're people, our brains were created by God. So why not open for it? And you're also hypocrite for band-aiding the porn
Yeah,
addiction inside the
yeah.
church by saying, let's just pray for it. You cannot pray for it. No, I believe in prayer. I'm one of those who do that every day because I need that. But then there's more
Mm-mm.
God provides for us. to deal with it. Church, I talked to a bunch of them. They're planning to ask me again for a more intimate discussion about this. And you know what, you know what, Sir Dino? My co-writer in that book, he's an atheist and I'm a Christian. And we bonded over a common enemy, porn. And I was thinking, I should write one with a priest or a pastor. That should be my partner for this, not an atheist. And yet I'm partnered with him. So I challenged the pastors when I talked to them, talk to me. I know you have a story to tell. Let's do something about your addiction and then let's write a book about it. That will shake your church and mold them into something else, something better. Something will help this generation.
Although part of them are doing something in the right direction, because, for example, in my church, we started to create what we call support groups. These were small, intimate groups for people with the same or similar issues. So there was a time that I was part of a support group made up of single men. So all of us were single. All of us came from broken families. All of us suffered through authority issues, where we couldn't trust those in authority. So we bonded and we shared and we helped each other overcome that. It only stopped because eventually we ended up getting
You
married.
get married na.
So
dapat married din meron.
Yeah, so we have to create a support group for married people so that they can also discuss. But I see what you're saying, that this is going to radically change how people think, because it creates neural pathways, new ways of thinking. One of our guests here on the Leader's Edge recently, who just passed away a few days ago, Carlos Pido Aguilar, was somebody who helped me change my way of thinking about people from different orientations. And I learned to appreciate them more, because in our world, in our lives, we need to be more inclusive rather than exclusive. The best way to drive people away is when we face them with a mind that's made like a rock rather than like a sponge. Problems are easier to solve when you're willing to listen to people with different perspectives, because then you create synergy. You create hybrids that may work better than simply one mindset. An ad agency, once upon a time that I served, had this poster on the wall that I really love. It said, "The day that everybody thinks the same way is the day that nobody's working in this company." Which makes sense. Kasi ad agency.
And if you're thinking the same way, it breeds tyranny as well, right? We're thinking the same way, and we're becoming a mob. And when opposition came in our group, you will bully that one opposition thinker over you, and then you're creating like you're a tyrant in your own circle na. You're all tyrants na. So yeah, I listen to atheists, different worldviews, sexual orientation. Let's have a talk. But there's nothing wrong with a talk. I will not still believe you. I will not be celebrating you. But I will listen to your story, and I will validate and affirm that that's your story and that's your experience. I cannot demerit that away from you. But then, that's why even in politics, blue, yellow, green, I don't care. I will listen to everybody, but then I have my own take on it. But I will not connive with people with the same mindset as I am. That's not healthy. At the end of the day, I will just sit and ask God, Lord, where do you want me to lead with this information? That's the beauty of it. And you know the group, the cell group that I joined, it's Catholic group to assist porn addicts. It's an international thing, and I was thinking, dapat all churches have that na for single man. So that's part of my book as well. So it takes a village. You're right. It takes a village to raise a champion. It takes a village to raise a leader. So wow, that's I don't know. Maybe in the future, I'm just doing all of this as God points me to go. So I don't know where it lead me. That's just cortisol leakage, huh? We're just talking about cortisol leakage, and we
Yeah,
go all over that. No? I
that's
hope
fine.
this is. Mm,
The best interviews that I've had or done have been what I call deep dives, and often that will require
yes,
going in different directions
yes, and you do your
they're
magic in your editing.
because they're all interconnected. They're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you look, for example, at Joe Rogan in his Joe Rogan's
Yes,
experience,
yes.
uh,
Uh-uh.
his interview with Elon Musk, which was more than 3 hours long, is riveting. I couldn't stand
Mm-mm.
up to answer nature's call because I love that
Ah,
how deeply they dove into the mind of the modern Tony Stark. So my point
yes.
is this: Lola is able to do what she's doing because she has good grounding. So for our viewers out there, I'd like to encourage you to be anchored first, and then once you have your anchor, it's because let me give an analogy, a sailing analogy. A captain can only chart a course on a map if he knows where he is in the ocean, because you cannot decide I want to go here if you don't know where you are. So Lola is well anchored as I am, and that's why we are able to open ourselves up to other people and make a difference. So Lola, any upcoming events, any special things that you'd like to mention here while we're at it?
Yes. Yeah, but first you mentioned Joe Rogan, right? You mentioned Joe Rogan. I don't know if you're so I that's your inspiration, and I love him as well. Do you know Jordan Peterson as well, Dr. Jordan Peterson? I don't know if you know him, but Joe Rogan also interviewed him the same way,
Oh, you
three
mean like
hours, and I had to listen. Dr. Joe Rogan interviewed Dr. Peterson the same way that he interviewed Elon Musk, but this time I
is he
listened to the three
is
hours.
he is he the one they call Dr. Phil? Because I listened to that with great
No,
interest.
he's different. No,
Oh,
Dr.
different.
Jordan Peterson, yeah, different. You told me about the map as a leader, right? I think what you're trying to say is the concept of Dr. Jordan Peterson to clean up your own room.
Yeah.
Clean up your own room, and then you'll be able to help other people clean up their own room as well. So that's just simple
Absolutely.
concept. Right? Clean up the mess in your own life, and then you will help other people clean their mess. The thing that's happening is we're meddling with other people's life because that's not too emotionally close to our hearts. And it's not painful to just be a marites in other people's life. But when we deal with our life, it's painful. That's why we want to watch YouTube channels of other people like that, because there's other people lives. But when you look at yourself in the mirror and fix your life, then you will see the beauty surrounding you. I think that's what you're trying to say then when
Yeah.
you introduce the concept of map. Now, I will just fast track with, I think our cortisol leakage is enough, but we have anti-fragility, which is about bullying. And actually, I will not well into that because I think I'm the definition of anti-fragility, because when you've been through a lot of bad stories in your life, you would either end that stories or create a genre out of that. Will it be a horror movie? Will it be a romance, dark fantasy? Or will it be a motivational story? So when you experience a painful situation in your life, your mind should always be, what will be the ending of this story? How will I write and rewrite the script of my own story? And I think that's what I did. When my brother had the same experience, a mom in jail, a problem father, etc., he wrote his story in a tragedy, a tragic way of ending the story. I chose to rewrite my story and chose anti-fragility. When your husband left you, you will fall apart. Or your husband left you, you will grow with a very hard heart, mean. Or your husband left you and then you created a lemon out of that lemonade, created a lemonade out of that lemon. So that's anti-fragility. And then we have like the motivational addiction, which I know sometimes I have. Like I don't sleep na if I'm very motivated about certain and very passionate about this person. And sometimes you just, as a leader, you just have to, hey, breathe also, take a walk also, get out of your computer. I'm also allowed to use computer for 8 hours, gadget screen, and my daughter would say, Mom, you told me to tell you that you're spending too much time on your screen. I know, but I'm working on a new book. Stop it. We have to go to gym. We have to go to gym. So inside my house, my daughter, my children are the one who's, your cell phone, stop your cell phone, no more gadgets, because I'm into that. I can do like 12 to 18 hours of computing time. So for the leaders out there, 8 hours of computer and gadgets and Netflix and all the things in the screen, on your screen, and then 2 to 4 hours of no screen time. Plants, hug your husband, kiss your children, play, do something. So that's the letter R for you remember the role of motivational addiction. And the final one is the engaging stories. And I will not dwell into that further because what we're doing now is actually an engaging storytelling technique. And that's what leaders are supposed to be. You sit with your people and then you allow the story to flow spontaneously, whatever it is the topic. You can talk about anything and everything under the sun. And if you're a good storyteller as a leader, sabi nga nila, your narrative sells more than your perspective. Yeah, I have a perspective, but if I don't know how to share that in an engaging storytelling, then the perspective will just become a common opinion. That when you presented that to so whenever I will ask, for example, my people to, you know what, how about we do this? I have a plan, because that's why I'm as a leader. I have a vision of doing things. My challenge is, how will I motivate my people to buy my vision, right? So before I present my vision, I will tell them a really nice story, and then when they listen to the story, they will buy into your vision. So that's basically the neuro leadership: cortisol leakage, anti-fragility, remember your motivational addiction as a leader, take a rest, and finally, engaging storytelling. That's why I encourage leaders to also write books, read fiction novels. Because a leader who reads fiction novels, they are more relatable to people because they understand the character arcs and character developments of the story inside the book or inside a typical Netflix series. So that's basically the whole care of being a neuro leader in this 21st century.
So Lola,
thank you for giving me this opportunity.
You're very welcome, and it's a privilege. I'm sure our viewers will have probably found themselves glued to their screens watching this all the way to the end. So how does a school, how does a church, how does an organization reach you? What are the contact avenues that they can use to be able to invite you, for example?
Yes, Yes, I'm all over the social media platform. I put up
Okay.
my own online store. It's lolacuentosera.com. That's how I was able to sell my book. I have my own bookstore, online bookstore. It's lolacuentosera.com. And then I'm also on Facebook, Lola Cuentosera. I have two, Lola Cuentosera Writing and Publishing, because I can also publish you, like your autobiographies or anything. I'm sure I want to dig into your brain, Toastmaster Dino, and maybe we can turn that brain into a book and a legacy, you know? So, and I'm also on TikTok, not dancing, but I'm on
Okay.
TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I have a Facebook. I have a website, and it's all under the name Lola Cuentosera. Lola
All right.
Cuentosera. That's all under the name. So it's very easy for you to. And sometimes the people say, no, it's Lola La Cuachera. I cannot because there's still pandemic. We cannot go La Cuachera. But I'm Lola Cuentosera. And you can, reach out to me. I even talk to people via messenger lang to counsel. It's for
Yeah.
free. I'm not charging anything because I'm not a licensed guidance counselor. I'm not I don't want to be like that. That's not my path, but I do talk to people. I listen to the stories and that's my thing. I listen. And then I will try my best to make you understand your own story and try to rewrite your life and make sure that you will end your story in a positive note and change the genre of your story from drama. Let's make that into romantic comedy or
Yeah.
something like an adventure. Let's quit the victimhood mentality when we write our own story. That's how our teleseries always uh, have their story plot. So let's change that into inspiring, motivational stories. That's
Mm.
Lola Cuentosera's thing. But I'm still in STI, College Muñoz EDSA. That's still my day job, and I love that job because it brings me closer to Gen Zs, to the students. My heart. I will always be an educator deep
At
within
heart.
the
Yeah.
fibers of my bones. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So,
if you
by
want
the way,
to reach me,
yeah. By the way, I'd like to congratulate you for your initiatives as well by creating a Toastmasters club within the school.
STI, yes, because we have to public speaking. Right, public speaking is my thing. No, it's because of my boss. My boss, when she entered the office, we're not really good in speaking English. That's why I'm having difficulty in speaking English. I'm very good in Filipino, in Taglish. No, attend my workshop and webinar, and I have a lot of things to say when it's in Filipino. And she said, I want you to learn how to speak in English and how to sell yourself in such a way that I know English is like not because you are good in speaking in English, you have what it takes to become a leader, but it's a tool. And then she supported me in putting up our own Toastmasters Club. And that's where I owe everything when it comes to public speaking and presenting and talking to you this way. And if you've met me like 20 years ago, that this is a character that's not who I was. I'm not this person. So
Mhm.
Toastmaster plays an important role in who I am right now.
So Lola, if you could share like a favorite maxim or a favorite saying, maybe from a beloved author, or your favorite Bible verse, what would it be?
Yes. Um the first thing that comes in mind is to live as if you will die tomorrow and to
Mm.
learn as if you will live forever. That's my mantra. It's like if God will uh, ask me to go home tomorrow, okay, to live is God and to die is gain. But Even if I'm 70 years old, I still want to learn more, more. I want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to experience more. I want to experience life. As if I will. So I'm planning to pursue another masteral studies in clinical and pastoral counseling and hopefully finish my doctorate for that by the age of I don't know how old. So that's my mantra. Yes. No revelation of that. I reveal a lot of things today, except the age. But actually, that's my mantra. Just some people are saying YOLO, you only live once. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's a generic concept that can bring both positive and negative things in your life. But when you say, you live as if you're die tomorrow, it's like you hugging your kids and your wife and making the most of your day because you know that life is short. And if you're
Mm.
saying you will learn as if you will live forever, it's your hunger to experience life to its fullest. And that's
Mm.
my mantra. And that's what I want Lola to be remembered for.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amelia, Lola, for being our
Lola,
guest today. And wow,
I hope
sharing so
you.
many deep insights with our viewers. I do hope that we can invite you in future episodes or future seasons so that you could tell us more, especially when you finish writing your new book.
Yes, please, can I? If we dig deeper more into porn, if I'm launching that book very soon. And I
Yeah,
hope it will be
wonderful.
interesting for people. Yes.
I'm sure it will because so many people need to hear that there's just more than one way to help people deal with it. We need to
Yes.
be open to alternative treatments that work.
Yes, I'll be back for that. Promise, promise.
Yeah, certainly. And for our viewers, do stay tuned for our next episode. That'll be season 8, episode 7, featuring Yung Fu Chi, who will be hosted by Mike Chua on the topic of diversity leadership. So thank you once again. And always remember that learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day.